So, over the past few weeks, we've been asking you guys to have your say on your favorite and least favorite current account, savings account, and credit card providers. Well, the results are now in, and we can reveal the best and the worst providers for 2024. First up, let's look at current accounts. So, perhaps unsurprisingly, one of the top providers, as said by you guys, was Chase. Now, we looked at the reviews, and what people seemed to really like was the 1% cashback, no overseas fees, and brilliant customer service. People also said they liked the easy to use app and the instant transfers, as well as having a real human customer service agent just a few taps away.
I mean, again, same with you. I'm not surprised that so many people pick this as their top account because that 1% cashback is very, very hard to beat. There were a handful of providers this year who did offer something maybe a little bit more than that, 1.5% here for a short amount of time, Hyperjar or Trading 212. But broadly speaking, yeah, it's one of the best ways you can pay for your spending at home and abroad. So 100% with people there. Get why that's there. Not my top app personally, but it is a good app. So I think if you are using it as your main current account, you can't go too wrong.
Well, another popular one was Lloyds. So with the Club Lloyds account, which we've also featured on Be Clever with Your Cash.com, as kind of, something to write home about, people seem to really like the freebie. So the Disney Plus subscription, the six cinema tickets each year. So someone actually wrote, the account is good value for money with added perks and it's easy to manage on the app. So another kind of tick for the Lloyds banking app. And someone else said it's a good current account with platform features like upcoming payments. And they also really liked having the two regular savers associated as well as the free cinema tickets.
Yeah, I'd love this account for those freebies because it is so simple to get them. You just need to make sure you pay £2,000 into the account every single month. And as long as you do that, then you've got your Disney Plus with ads for a year, or you've got your cinema tickets or a magazine subscription. So very, very little effort. Again, if you're worried about, £2,000, I can't pay that in every month. We've covered previously. Find our content out there. We explain the hacks so you can put a small amount in and out, in and out, in and out of the account. It just needs to add up to 2 grand. So big fan for that. And the 6.25% regular saver, the main one you get via the Club Lloyds account, that is a decent rate. It is fixed for 12 months. So might not be the best one out there, but it's definitely good. So yeah, good all-rounder. I'm sort of understand why people are big fans of this one. I like it too.
I think you'll also not be surprised by the next kind of favorite because again we featured it on the website as a good current account to consider. Now this is nationwide, so this was another favorite provider, and all three of the current accounts, so the Flex Plus, Flex Direct, and Flex account, all got really positive reviews.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I like it, I think we like it as well, is because it is an ethical, of all the big high street accounts you can get current accounts, it is the most ethical option out there. So if that is important to you, it's well worth looking at those nationwide current accounts. Uh, I would say, I mean, it's got better as well. I used to use it all the time personally, but had big frustrations with the app back in the day, particularly compared to the likes of Monzo, Starling, and Chase. What they're doing, your Halifax and your Lloyds, and all the others catching up. It's still a bit behind everyone else, but they've made improvements. So yeah, you could absolutely, if ethics are important to you, definitely consider this. Also, one of the only banks that gives a loyalty payment every year to people who are actually using the account. So I didn't get it last year because I just had it in the background, wasn't one of my main accounts. But if you're using it regularly and you meet the criteria, it's worth just double checking what the criteria has been in the last couple of years. Normally it's January, February, March. If you've got one, that's a nice little bonus. Only downside I would say this year is they did increase the fee on that Flex Plus account to £18 a month. So we talked about that was one of our kind of top picks for a packaged account. Now, possibly not. But again, a lot of people out there were fans, which is nice to see.
Now over to the worst ones. So again, kind of, a well-known brand on the high street, HSBC. So I wouldn't say, I mean, maybe it's a bit unfair to say it's one of the worst ones. I'd say it got a mixed bag of scores, including some negative reviews. So customers tended to mark it down because of poor value and customer service. Some of the reviews were talking about it having a mediocre app, low interest rates, and issues transferring money, which would kind of, be down to an individual's experience. I wouldn't say that was kind of a complaint across the board. However, some people liked the fact that HSBC still does have a presence on the high street with its branches.
Yeah, although it does depend where you live because, like all of them, they might be closing down in your high street and you'll be stuck without them. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty average, isn't it? Because if we're asking people to say what account they don't like, this is probably going to be one of those big contenders because it doesn't do anything. There's no real advantages to having this standard HSBC account. Didn't even really run any switching offers this year, I don't think. So there wasn't really any reason to have it. I think people have got it because they've always been with it. And I would say that's a good reason to look at another option and maybe switch and get some free cash elsewhere, because it's not really doing you any favours sticking with it.
Yeah, there was one review that really sticks in my mind of someone who got an HSBC account when they first moved to the UK. And it was one of the few, no, maybe the only bank that would give him this account. And he stuck with it for 5 years out of loyalty, and then actually kind of woke up and was like, I can get better deals elsewhere. Customers also weren't too impressed with Co-op as a current account provider. So while the ethics of the bank were admired, one customer said that the switch process is slow. There was comments about the app not being as good as other banks, and customer service was described as limited.
Yeah, Co-Operative Bank is probably going to be sold to Coventry Building Society in 2025, and we'll see what happens to it then. Will the brand completely disappear? Will it combine? How that work? We'll find out. But yeah, again, it's one of those accounts which is probably more pain than you get in return. Yes, there have been some switching deals and quite a few switching deals during the year, but they have been the most convoluted ones. So really, I think for the purists who have done all the other switching deals and they're still just trying to get the money, rather than people who are like, oh, maybe this would be a good current account, I'll give it a try. Nah, I wouldn't bother with it. They actually made the account worse this year as well. They ditched the rewards that you could get, but that was so much admin to trigger those rewards that I still wouldn't have encouraged it anyway. So yeah, again, a bit like HSBC, a bit of a blah, a bit of a nothing account. Much better options out there for people.
Right, so that was the tops and bottoms of current accounts. And next, on to savings. So once again, we see Chase as one of the favorites of this year. So this is interesting because we update our savings best buys twice a day, and Chase didn't really appear as kind of a savings provider that was offering one of the top rates for the majority of the year. However, it did make an appearance occasionally, and this was thanks to the 1% bonus that was offering for 12 months, putting it near the top. However, not everyone could get it. It didn't last very long. But what customers were saying, they were big fans again. They were saying the app is great, and they liked how easy the bank makes moving money between accounts, as well as having no upper savings limit. However, there was, a sprinkling of criticism, with some people saying that they found the different savings rate thresholds confusing that it was introducing throughout the year.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think there have been better savings accounts this year. Chase was great when it was really leading the field for so many times, but this kind of suggests that people are thinking, actually, no, I like that all-in-one bundle. And if you're doing that, if you've got the current account, which you've already said, yeah, we agree with people, that's a decent one, and you want your savings account in the same app, and it's given a all right rate, not an amazing rate if you didn't get that bonus, an all right rate, then that maybe takes precedent for a lot of people. Then, okay, I want to have an app for this and an app for that, or account over here and account over there. So I get why people will go, yeah, I like the current account and I like the savings account. I think what Chase have been doing that people maybe haven't cottoned on to this year is, yes, every now and again they offer a really high rate, top of the table with this bonus for a short amount of time. In fact, they've just launched one again now. Brand new Chase current account customers are able to get a 5% rate for 6 months, which again is top of the table. So those kind of headline grabbing ones are great when you first get there. But it's underneath that, some of those changes are a bit cheeky. They've changed the interest rate to a tracker rate. So rather than a variable rate, it's now a tracker. So it follows the Bank of England base rate. And they've actually changed that once a few months ago. And they're changing it again. They've just announced they're going to change that again in February. So yes, right now you can get 5%, which sounds great. But in middle of February, that is going to drop automatically to 4.75. And if you haven't got that top rate, if you're an existing customer, and you're actually going to be on 3.25%.
Now, trading to 212, which is the opposite to Chase, really, when you kind of think of how often it's featured at the top of the tables in our ISA tables. This was another customer favorite, which, yeah, isn't really surprising. And again, people were saying, the rates were attractive and they also really like the app.
Yeah, it's been really, they're trying to get some of the market, aren't they? So they're pushing those rates up really high. And I think I was away, wasn't I, only this year, and you were like trying to updating the tables for our newsletter, and it
Yeah.
changed like 3 times in a day or something like that, because another person was, they've always competed trying to be, if not right at the top, near the top of those tables, to get some market share, to get people in using the app, which is, it's no bad thing if you're just after trying to get the best rate you possibly can on your money in a cash ISA. I also really like that you get that rate on transfers in as well. The other one that's competing near that, which is Plump, you don't get that rate on transfers, and there are other limitations. So I think this is a good or not just for right now for ISAs, but just easy access savings, is definitely one to be looking at.
And lastly, another this favorite, Zopa. So this proved really popular, and people were saying it was all about the seamless service it offered. So there doesn't seem to be a lot of delays in money transfers. This was something that people really liked. The app is easy to use and it sends out useful notifications as well as offering the decent rates.
Yeah, I think this goes back to similar to what people talk about, simplicity of having things in the same place. And actually, it's quite, say, Zopa does offer a number of different savings options where you can sort of add little boosts on if you want to sort of give it a notice stay for a week or a month or move it around. You have, that kind of multiple different accounts still within Zopa. So I think that's probably where people are coming from there as well. Interestingly, it's still under kind of beta. They did introduce a regular saver this year as well, paying 7.5%. You have to open up their current account. That's what's in beta. But that is one of the best options out there as well. So it'd be interesting to see next year how they kind of, what else they do, both the current account and the savings account, to see if people still like them as much.
And what follows the best must come the worst. Now, I must say, with this kind of data collection exercise, it was quite difficult to pick some of the kind of the poorer performers because there was often quite a broad range of providers, and it didn't seem fair to include, the ones that had only got, a few kind of bad reviews. So we only have one of the kind of the less favorite, let's say, in the savings category. And this was Kent Reliance. So it's a smaller provider. It does appear in the Best Buy tables. We see it, in the fixed term bond category. And what was interesting was the trend in the reviews. So customers seemed to be initially impressed with Kent Reliance, probably because of the rates, but then disappointed. So there was one review that said, great interest rates, but the telephone customer service is beyond bad, providing misleading information, which contradicts the information on the website. And there was also another review about, once they'd signed up for an account with Kent Reliance, the rates kind of kept falling in line with the Bank of England base rate. However, we do see this with other providers, so perhaps it's a little bit unfair to just kind of point the finger at Kent Reliance.
Yeah, when I saw that this was one of the losers for the year, I wasn't surprised because my mum also has saved with Kent Reliance for a long time. Partly because we're from Kent originally and used to be sort of like used to be a building society and special deals if you were local and things. But she stuck with them because one, they offered some decent rates, but two, they were one of the few out there which had decent rates that were not requiring you to do online or app banking. So she stuck with them, but she has given up now because she is so frustrated with the customer service. Exactly what these other people were saying. It's kind of, yes, something to always think about, isn't it? Yes, you might be able to get a decent rate. Yes, you might be able to get an interesting product and features. But if you do need support, if you do need help, and that is non-existent, then maybe you'd be better off going for one with a slightly lower rate, but with better reviews and better feedback. So yeah, not surprised to see them at the bottom of the pile.
And this is what's really, useful. And we've said it before about checking, not just checking the reviews to find out with these perhaps, smaller providers to find out what people are saying about customer service, but also trying it yourself. If you prefer to speak to a provider, a bank or a building society or whatever, you can try and give them a call and see how long it takes you to get through, on the phone. Or if, email is your preference. Like I did a whole article on, if you can trust smaller providers. And one of the tips is to, before you make the move, to test out the customer service. Because it is, yeah, you kind of don't really think about it until things go wrong. But it is good to know that you can access a real person when you need
Yeah,
to.
definitely. And also, like you said, there are, we're just sharing the reviews that you guys left for this kind of as our readers. There are loads more reviews on these and other providers over at our sister site, smartmoneypeople.com. So you can go over there and just again check what people are saying about particular smaller providers who you might not have heard of. It's a great place to get a little bit more information.
Now, final category, credit cards. So, one of your favorites this year was American Express. And what people seemed to really like was the easy to use app, clear presentation of points, and the good bonus offers that we regularly feature on Be Clever with Your Cash. People in particular seem to really like the gold card. Someone described it as a no brainer if you make use of what it offers, such as the delivery credit and lounge access.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Amex, have always been here on the channel. There are things don't always go right, as there are with any provider. And we have covered a few things recently, but broadly speaking, it's well worth having one of these in your wallet, because those welcome bonuses, you say, they are really hard to beat, and the ongoing earning of points or cash back, really decent as well. Maybe not as good as Chase with that debit card, but big fan. All the extra perks and stuff you get are great. What I would say about that gold card though is might be a no-brainer in year one. You could be really careful that after 12 months you do cancel it, because suddenly a big annual fee comes in. I think it's 195 quid, which does not justify getting £5 off Deliveroo every month. It's definitely a 1 year only kind of account. If you are interested in that one, there is a increased bonus available until the middle of January. So worth having a look at that. Again, we've covered that in detail on the website and elsewhere, full analysis of how that offer works. But if you want it, it's a good time to go for it.
The Halifax Clarity credit card, tongue twister, was another one of your favourites, being described as excellent because of its fee-free spending abroad, decent app. Again, people are really focusing in on the app. So yeah, this is kind of something for providers to take note of. And also the good customer service via the chat service on the app, which is interesting because I think people are quite divided about even, taking the leap with chat services. And we've certainly discussed the annoyances that can come from, the chatbot versus actually having someone on the end of like the chat feature. So yeah, it's good to hear that people like the Halifax one.
Yeah, I had this for years. This was like the original fee-free overseas credit card. So I'm sure a lot of people have had it for a long time. They're using it when they're on holiday and they're kind of like, this is a great thing to have. Again, it's a good backup to that Chase one, because that Chase is fee-free home and abroad and earns you the cash back. But if you've got the Halifax Clarity, then yeah, absolutely a good one to stick with. We've covered the best cards to use overseas a number of times. There are other options that might be a little bit better, but yeah, I think hard to fault this one.
And as for the worst, I feel like people are going to be disappointed that we haven't named and shamed any credit card providers. But as I said before, it was a really wide range of brands that were kind of put in this list. So it would be unfair to single out one that just had one or two reviews. However, I will say across the board, customer service was one of the main reasons that people kind of had issues and why they were leaving these negative reviews.
Yeah, it goes back, doesn't it, to actually checking out what's over on Smart Money People or other kind of reviews out there, just to see if people have had any issues, if they ever need to get in touch. But when it comes down to credit cards, of course, the most important thing to remember here is like, are you actually going to follow those kind of key credit card rules? So are you going to be able to only use it for spending that you can afford? Are you going to pay it off every single month to avoid getting charged with interest and so on? And also, when you apply, make sure you do that eligibility check and see what your chances of getting accepted are. You don't want to just apply for one and then get rejected. So I think, broadly speaking, if you can do those things, then hopefully the card you've got is going to serve the purpose you need it for anyway. But yeah, I agree with you. It'd be unfair for us to single out any particular one because it was a big mix of mixed reviews across all the different options. Well, guys, thank you so much for telling me and Amelia what your views were for 2024. In particular, a shout out to the winner of our prize draw that we ran in conjunction for this. So everyone who did let us know their thoughts was entered in to win a £250 voucher. And the winner was Barbara, who was absolutely delighted when we let her know. Said she never wins anything. So just shows you should got to be in it to win it, right? Take part. That was 2024 wrapped. Now I will be letting you know my picks for 2025 in the new year. Best current accounts, best savings accounts, best credit cards. So make sure you keep an eye out for those.